Good Tuesday morning, friends. This is, of course, your Tuesday tune-up. Somebody once said that your life is like a movie in which you are the star. Everyone that you encounter then is a fellow actor. Now, some are co-stars, some are featured players, some are extras who just kind of fill out the scene. But one thing is clear: you are the star. I mean, without you, the movie wouldn't work, and you are central to the whole thing. Now, as the star, you are, of course, entitled to the star treatment. You get your own dressing room, you have an assistant who's going to handle all those little details that you're too busy to have to deal with. And everyone, from the director to the producer to the other actors, is going to defer to you because, after all, it's all about you. Well, since I am, of course, the star of my movie, I've already begun working on my acceptance speech for the Oscar, which I will most certainly win. Don't worry, I won't forget to thank all of you for being such a wonderful supporting cast. I may not mention you by name, but you'll know that you're always in my heart. Isn't that kind of what actors always say? Well, the problem, of course, is that my movie is not the same as your movie. If I'm the star of my movie, well, then I'm only a co-star of my wife's movie, and maybe just a featured player in Father Peter's movie, and perhaps merely an extra in your movie. While, of course, great actors can thrive in smaller roles, there are no small parts, just small actors. It sets up a problem when the plot of my movie clashes with the plot of someone else's movie. We can't both be the star, so who gets to play the lead when our movies intersect? Or put another way, how can you think that it's all about you when it's so clearly all about me? We humans develop a self-identity that casts us as the center of attention. It begins at birth when we take our first breath. Babies don't know about other people. They know only that they're hungry or tired, and they cry, and they get their needs met. As they grow, they begin to recognize that their parents actually are separate from them, but they also learn that they exist merely to provide them for all of their needs. It's been my experience that some people never grow out of this, even into adulthood. We all, let's be honest, we all tend to look at the world through the lens of enlightened self-interest. It's natural for us to consider how our actions or those of others will impact us. We wrap ourselves in this cloak of identity that protects us from the world around us. Safely ensconced then in our protective covering, we're impervious to the assault of the world, and our role as the star of the show is protected and assured. Well, let's test that. Think about the story of Job. We know that Job was a good and a righteous man, a man of faith who loved the Lord. Yet Job had all manner of calamity heaped upon him, more than anyone should have to endure. He did not succumb to the devil's temptation to curse God and renounce his faith, but that's not what actually changed his fortunes. Remember that Job actually wanted to put God on trial, to hold God to account for all of the troubles visited upon Job. Even in his misery, Job was still wearing his cloak of self-identity, safely secure in the knowledge that he was indeed the star of the movie. He was certain that if he could just get God to listen to him, that all would be set right. But notice God's reaction in this story. God is having none of it. Rather than hear Job's case, God asks Job who he thinks he is. Where were you, God asks Job, when the earth was created? Did you set the stars in motion and separate the day from the night? God reminds Job that while he may be the star of his own movie, he's merely a bit player in God's movie. And God's movie is the greatest one of all. In effect, what God does is strips away Job's cloak of self-deception and lets him see that the world around him is much bigger than Job had realized. And then Job says this wonderful phrase, "Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me which I did not know. I have heard of you by the hearing of my ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I repent in dust and ashes." Job has had his worldview expanded, and he now knows that God is more than he has ever been able to understand. Job stands before the Lord now humble and without any warped sense of self-interest. And the story then ends. "And the Lord restored the fortunes of Job, and the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before." Well, Job is a symbol for all of us to recognize that the movie isn't about us. It's about God. In the Gospels, we meet Bartimaeus, a blind beggar who sits on the side of the road in Jericho, waiting for travelers to offer him alms. He hears a great commotion, and he learns that Jesus of Nazareth is coming down the road, and he begins to call to him, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." The people, they freak out. They try to silence him, but he calls ever louder, and then Jesus hears him and calls him over. Now listen to this. "So throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and he came to Jesus." This is both a physical as well as a symbolic gesture. For a poor blind beggar, his cloak is one of his only possessions. It's his way of staying warm and being protected from the elements. To throw it off so quickly was no small thing, as it is likely the only possession that he had. In a symbolic sense, Bartimaeus, like Job, casts off his cloak of self-identity in recognition of God. He knows that God is near, and he puts his self-identity aside to go and approach the Lord. And Jesus restores the fortunes of Bartimaeus and gives him sight. My brothers and sisters, we all experience hardship in our lives. They are sometimes small, sometimes large, and sometimes appear to be completely overwhelming. Job and Bartimaeus are not all that different from us. Each had troubles, and each had to set aside their focus on themselves and open their minds to the larger presence of God. They had to learn that they are not the star of the movie, but are there to support God and support the other actors in God's name. May we do the same this week. God bless you.